Hey there, welcome back. It is Tuesday and it's 6 o'clock in Paris, and I'm so happy that you're back. Yesterday was a bit of a challenge, as if you joined me, we started and I sort of went on, and then everyone kept saying, the screen's dark. So I restarted, and then I sort of forgot what I said and what I didn't say. So today we're hoping for a great internet connection and a lot of other things, but today feeling much better today. I mentioned I had a meltdown recently, not a big one, but I needed a breath, probably needed to go on vacation or something, which is not possible right now. But I did go out today. I was very excited, and I got a baguette, which always makes me feel good. Whenever I leave France and I come back, if I'm going on vacation, the first thing I do is buy a baguette, split it in half lengthwise, and just smear it with salted butter. And it's really good because it's fresh. Maybe you can hear how crunchy it is. But I did eat the other end, so don't worry about that. I made a sandwich as soon as I got home. And people often remark if I put this online, why didn't you pull the end off? That's my favorite part. Well, didn't want to do that till I washed my hands. But just so you know, in case anybody ever asked you, that little bit of bread in France at the end of a baguette is called a quignon, which is the point, and you're allowed to pull it off and eat it right when you leave the bakery if you want. But since I had touched a lot of stuff, I went produce shopping. I didn't want to do that. The other thing I got today I was very excited about was this tripod I ordered. It's already falling apart. I ordered it online and I thought, this is going to be great. I'll be able to have a tripod to move things around. Okay, that just fell off too. The bottom things, I have no idea how they stay up because there's no way to hold it. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I don't like it. So that was the bad part of the day. But other than that, and a few blog comments, I posted a new cookie recipe, and people don't realize that it takes like 3 or 4 days sometimes to get a blog post up. So I was reading a couple of the comments, and a few people weren't appreciative of getting a recipe. So I was like, okay. Anyway, but I'm happy you're here, and I'm happy for myself to be here as well. And today we're going to make this one of my absolute favorite cocktails. It's called the Martini, and you've probably heard of it. Since yesterday, I had the Martini glasses out. I thought this is a perfect time to keep them out, because once things go back, all these cabinets are full of glassware and so forth. Once things go up there, they don't come back easily. So a lot of people nowadays will put martinis in glasses like this, pretty glasses. This is sort of what I used to drink martinis out of when I lived in San Francisco, and that's when I started drinking martinis. I used to work at Chez Panisse, and for some reason we used to have, I'm not sure how this started, but we used to have martini night after work, and we'd have Bombay Sapphire martinis, and we'd sit around, listen to music, and drink a martini before heading home. And then we started going to a bar called Bix in San Francisco on our nights off. And Bix was very famous for its martinis. It was sort of, I think it's in an alley in San Francisco. It's sort of a retro, almost Art Deco or Art Nouveau kind of place. But it was very well known. I mean, they had really good food as well. They had Bix Mix, which was Czech's party mix, their own version of that. And that was really good. But they had a really good martini. The martini is probably the most controversial drink out there. There's a lot of foods that are controversial. Everybody fights about who owns what, who invented what, whose grandmother made what, and how and when and why, what they used, and what you didn't use that they should have used, and what you did to their food and how you did it. Anyway, the Martini is full of controversy. And one of my favorite books that came out in the last few years is called The Martini Cocktail by Robert Simonson. And I might quote him a few times during this talk, and I don't even know. Sometimes he's turning in. Salut, Nicolas. Sometimes Robert tunes in. So I just want to say a couple of things I'm going to say are, I went to see him speak in, sometime, I think this fall, when his book came out. And I don't have it I don't have it with me at the moment. I don't know where it is. But it's a wonderful small book, and it's all about the martini. He wrote this book called 3 Ingredient Cocktails, and I love this book because it's exactly the kind of book I like. It doesn't have any fancy cocktails. They're all good classic cocktails. 3 ingredients, no BS, just things you can make. So the martini book was good because he discussed the different kinds of martinis, and there isn't one martini. There's the vodka martini, which is not a martini, it's a vodka martini. There's the Martinez, there's a Vesper. They're all, are they martinis or aren't they martinis? How much vermouth should a martini have? During, I think it was the 90s, people would say, oh, just wave the bottle of vermouth near the glass. That's all I want. And that's okay if you don't like, if you just want gin, that's great. If you want a little bit of gin, a little bit of vermouth in it. I think I mentioned the other day that Winston Churchill was is sort of credited with founding that. That's also not, it's lore. But he was having a problem with France at the time and didn't want any French vermouth near his precious gin. So right now, gin is actually made in France. So you can make your vermouth in France or England or anywhere. Use French gin, you can use British gin, English gin, American gin. Gin is made in a lot of countries. The main thing that gin has in it is juniper. That's what makes it different than a vodka martini, for example. You're gonna have a liqueur or a spirit in there, I should say, that's gonna have a lot more flavor than vodka. So I don't understand vodka martinis, and you're welcome to leave me comments about that. But however, I support your right to drink vodka martinis. Enjoy your vodka martinis. Enjoy your dirty martinis. Some people like black licorice. I like red licorice. Some people eat some weird things. I've been like sea cucumbers, which I like a lot. Not everybody likes them. But, and hi Amy from South Haven. I don't know where South Haven is, but it's nice of you to say hello. And I like saying hello to people in Boston, Wisconsin. Yes, I am feeling better. This is real. It didn't just happen. I did have to get up early and do it. Hello in Florida. And do a short video for a company. And I was kind of feeling grumpy, and we had to tape it a few times. Hi in Santa Fe. Yes, a baguette would make you happy, but so would some Mexican food make me happy. So maybe someday we'll change. We'll do a transfer. So we taped this short thing about me, and they said bloopers are okay. I said, oh, I'm full of bloopers. I'm good at bloopers. So, but one thing that's very important about the martini is the glass. You don't hear people say, oh, this is the right glass for a Manhattan. This is the perfect glass for a Negroni. People are usually pretty fluid about those things, and feel free to leave comments if you're not fluid about those things. Nice comments are always appreciated, but the glass, a martini glass, because a martini is an experience. When you go to a bar, when they bring you out this icy cold drink, and it's like, it's been made properly, they get it right to you, they spent a lot of time getting it really cold, and you could tell the bartender, was proud of what she or he did. So the glass is very important. It's a part of the enjoyment of a martini. And I remember my friend Stephanie, who I used to work with at Chez Panisse, this is during our whole martini thing we had going there. She had gone to, I think it was the Four Seasons in New York, and I still remember this is like 30 years later. And if she's watching, hi Stephanie, I miss you. She said, you go there and they have these martini glasses and they go up. She goes, but right at the lip, at the top, they go in just a little, so you don't spill anything. It's like those kind of details make life, when you appreciate them and you see them, and that's why when you go to a nice place and you get a good drink, it makes you happy and appreciative. So unfortunately, a lot of bars are closed right now, and I've been watching a lot of bartenders on Instagram and so forth, so I hope they can open soon. And I had great experiences with bartenders when I was writing Drinking French. Everybody was super nice to me, even though I was a dork and just some guy who makes brownies, and kept pestering them with questions about why they were doing what they were doing. But I learned a lot, and that was good. So the 2 ingredients in a martini, which is also controversial, some people say there should be orange bitters in a martini, are gin and vermouth. The choice of gin is up to you, of course. I personally I love Tanqueray gin. I love it in a gin and tonic. To me, it's got too much flavor for a martini. It's not clean enough, and that's just my personal opinion. If you like Tanqueray martinis, have a Tanqueray martini. So find a gin that you like. To me, I like something dry. I like something dry and bracing and not complicated. And that goes for the vermouth too. In a martini, there's always French vermouth, it's called, or dry vermouth. And the two main French vermouths are Dolin and Noilly Prat. And I haven't really talked much about Noilly Prat during these videos because I don't have a bottle here. We're sort of stuck with what we can get. Oh, hello in Ghent. Hi in Belgium. And hello, Rachel. I'm glad you're back again. And hello in Los Angeles. You love the recipes. Thank you so much. I'm going to cry. Oh, and Hope Anderson09 says, yay, martinis are my favorite. They're mine too. However, when I went to Robert Simonson's martini party in New York, they were complimentary because it was a book party, book release. And I think I had 3, maybe 4. And then I went out and I was trying to be one of the guys because everyone's like, let's go out and shoot some pool. I'm like, sure. So we had Pabst Blue Ribbons and I shot pool. Everyone's like, how'd you know how to play pool? I'm like, I'm not an idiot. So I played pool, but the next week I couldn't drink. I was just like, I was saturated. So enjoy any drink in moderation. A couple people have noted on these videos where you're promoting drinking, and I am, but I'm not promoting you to drink. If you don't drink, if you don't want to drink, don't drink, it's fine. Drink in moderation. I love drinking, but I don't like getting drunk. So that's I don't like being out of control, and I like to have an enjoyable drink with friends, and then that's it. I'm fine having one, which I'm going to do tonight. So getting back to vermouth, the first French vermouth was Noilly Prat, and this is made in the south of France. Dolin vermouth is made in the north. It's made in, this is a Blanc vermouth. This is made in the Alps. Noilly Prat is made in the south, and they used to bring the grapes over, or the grape juice, from Spain on the boats because it's on the coast. It's in a town called Marseillon. And I have to say, when I went down there to do research for drinking French, I stayed in this B&B, and it was off season. The whole town was completely dead. It was gray, and I was literally the only out of towner there. They gave me a private tour of Noilly Prat because there was nobody else. But the people at the guest house were the nicest people I've ever met in France. They picked me up at the train station. They dropped me off the next day. The husband arranged for me to go on this quick train trip somewhere, and he called everybody and arranged it. I was like, you guys are, and the breakfast was great, and it was not expensive, and they have a swimming pool, and I'm like, I want to go back. I want to stay here in the summer. Anyhow, Noilly Prat is in this town called Marseillon, and it's right off the coast. And so the grapes used to be oxidized because the juice came over on boats, and it took a while, and the salt air would affect them. So at Noilly Prat, they still actually age the vermouth or the wine in barrels that are outside, so it's slightly oxidized. It has a sort of an amber. It's not white vermouth. It's very, it's a little woody tasting, almost sherry-like. And it's got about, I think, 19 or 20 different spices. And I learned a word. French has a lot of words. There's a metal rod they stick in the barrels to stir things, and the action is called the dodinage. The French have a lot of specific words for certain things. Sometimes it's funny because I'll be in a situation and I'll say, oh yeah, le dodinage. And they're like, how do you know that? So I was there. But Noilly Prat's been made in the south of France, and they make 4 vermouths. And this one, they told me when I was there, you can't get it outside of the distillery. It's called an ambre, or amber vermouth. And it's got saffron in it and a few other things. And when I got home, I was writing the book, and I said, you have to go there. You can only get this vermouth there. And then I was doing some fact checking before we went to press, and I found it for sale online in selected places. So I asked them, they go, yeah, a few places are authorized to sell it. So it's more of a drinking vermouth, something you drink over ice. You wouldn't really put this in a cocktail. But one thing that happened to Noilly Prat is it's very popular in America. If you go to a supermarket, like a Safeway in California, they have Noilly Prat vermouth. They changed their formula, I think it was in 2009. And they miscalculated. The American market, people do not drink vermouth in America, like white vermouth on its own. It's mostly used in martinis. And they decided to ship the European version over, and people started freaking out. They're like, why is this yellow? This doesn't go. So they eventually came out with an original dry, which is the standard dry vermouth that they make, and an extra dry, which you can only get in the United States, according to them. And I haven't seen it here anywhere, and I know that I've sort of looked, because that's what I prefer to use. So if you go to a store and you want to buy Noilly Prat vermouth and you want to use it for martinis, I recommend the extra dry, not the original dry. But once again, if you like that, you're welcome to have it. I'm not you, and you're not me, and you should be happy. Oh, you made a pomegranate martini last night. I know right now espresso martinis are the big thing again, which is kind of funny, because the Cosmopolitan, and I was sort of excited to have one, and all these sort of vintagey drinks are coming back, which is nice, because a lot of them are good. And it's good to have fun, like the people who are like on my blog talking about cookies, they weren't having fun. I was like, it's cookies, like, enjoy them. It's not controversial. So enjoy your cocktails. I do not enjoy this tripod though, which fell on the floor, and I think I killed it. But it also only shoots in this mode, which is like the thing that people use with those selfie sticks that are walking around. So I can't use that with you guys either, unless you wanted to turn everything. So the martini is just gin, and it's just vermouth. I like my martinis a little wetter. There's actually something called a 50-50 or a 50-50 martini, which is half vermouth, half gin. And to say, most experts say if you decide to make that, it's a great drink. I've never tried it, but you should only use Dolan vermouth for that, because it's got a light taste. It doesn't, it won't overpower, if you use a lot of it. So I don't know, maybe I'll try that when the stores are open. I'll restock my bar. So I've got a ½ ounce of dry vermouth in my shaker, and I'm gonna shake these. One thing I don't know when this whole thing happened, but I forgot about shaking. I remember them shaking martinis in San Francisco. And everyone's like, oh, never shake a martini. A kitten dies every time you shake a martini. You're bruising the gin. It's like, you can't bruise gin. Gin is thrown, it's in boxes, and they throw it off trucks and so forth. You can't, hitting gin with a spoon doesn't bruise gin. Maybe somebody who's a scientist can prove that, but that's sort of a funny thing that people started saying. So I'm using a ½ ounce of vermouth and 2½ ounces of gin. So that's like 1 to 4, 1 to 5, I would say, maybe closer to 1 to 5. I'm also not a mathematician. I think I got like a D+ in math. Little did I know, I became a baker. I was probably the only one to use math after high school. Everyone else in my class probably went on to become, fancy whatevers. Oh no. Wow. Live. I ran out of gin. Fortunately, I have a backup bottle, if you'll just hold on. All right, so 3½ ounces of gin. And ice. You could stir these. Somebody told me that they didn't like shaken martinis because you were diluting it. I was like, well, you do that when you stir it as well. So stirring it, when you shake a drink, it makes it even colder. That's why I like them shaken. And then somebody else said, well, you get little ice chips on top if you shake it. I was like, I love those. That to me is the goal. So maybe I'm the wrong person to ask about making cocktails. Which is funny because I just wrote a book that's about 80% cocktails. Wherever the top is, please identify yourself. It's right here. And I should move this. Since I don't have my little selfie stick thing, I can't angle this down. Oh, you went to Bix as well, Liberty Champ. Yes, and I think it's still there. They use Gordon's gin in their martinis, according to Robert's book. So I'm gonna shake this once again for about 15, 20 seconds. Some people say shake it for 10 seconds because you don't want to dilute it too much. You got a lot of gin in there, and I don't really like to drink straight gin. But I'm sure some people do, and I'm not judging you. But I will judge you if you serve me a martini in a not chilled glass. So this is a chilled glass, well chilled. Now that's a big drink. It's very hefty, but when you go out to eat, that's what you want. It's a big drink. Sometimes at places they serve you a little carafe on the side. They don't pour all of it in the glass, and they keep it in ice, which is great because that keeps it cold. Some people like olives in their martinis. I used to love olives in my martinis because I love olives. And I always found myself reaching in and grabbing it as soon as I could because I love eating them. And I loved getting 2 olives sometimes because I could eat the 2. And then I realized, you know what, lemon is better. So now what I do is I serve olives on the side and I put a lemon zest in because I like that flavor. And maybe I'm just trying to bring that, what people, there's people that add orange bitters to it. I'm just gonna drop this in. And there we go, a perfect icy cold martini shaken. Wow. And I just need a moment with it alone, if you'll excuse me. That's very good. It's a big drink. It's a pretty hefty cocktail. So 1's usually enough for me. I still can't believe I had 4 that night. And to me, I could almost use even more vermouth in it. I don't mind the vermouth flavor. In fact, I like vermouth in my martinis. So you can use whatever ratio you want. This recipe's on my blog. I actually have 2 recipes on my blog. One is the shaken martini and one is just a regular short one. So you can make either if you'd like. And I do recommend Robert Simonson's book. Whoops, it's funny when I pull up comments, the whole keyboard comes up. And let's see. Hello in Seattle. Yes, nice thing after work. Yes, definitely after work. A lot of people are like, Bix, Bix, Bix. Yeah, it was great. I think Martini translates to Martini Vermouth brand. Yes, Mel Sterc. Somebody brought up the name Martini. And there is a theory that the name was named after Martini and Rossi, the company. They actually had a different name before Martini and Rossi. And they may have come up with the cocktail. As liquor companies often come up with cocktails named after their, like Dubonnet cocktail. So they come up with a cocktail, Susan Tonic. They come up with a cocktail that uses their brand. And there's talk that maybe the first martini was on the rocks because of that. It was a vermouth-based cocktail with not so much gin. So that's possible. That's one theory. Once again, Robert Simonson in his book, The Martini Cocktail, really goes into these things, but it's so hard to know what happened. When I was researching chartreuse liqueur for my book, the monks started, I think, in the year 1002 or 1004, and I read a couple books about the monks, and I wrote all the stuff about them, and I sent my book, my manuscript to the president of Chartreuse, Emmanuel, and he said, well, this might not be true, and this is we're not sure about, and he said, finally goes, these things happened 600 years ago. We actually don't know, like nobody wrote anything down. So these things become stories, and then they become myth, and then they become real. And a lot of it's fun because it's like, well, there's a big controversy who discovered the cosmopolitan, as I found out in my comments as well. I know 5 or 6 people that claim to have invented the warm chocolate cake with the melting center, which would go well with it, would go well with this. So another thing that happens is also people come to Paris and they order a martini at a cafe and they're brought a glass of vermouth, because that's, in France, if you want, a popular apéritif is a martini. And if you say martini rouge, they'll bring you a glass of red Martini and Rossi, maybe on the rocks, maybe just with a twist, or white. So you won't get a martini like this unless you go to a cocktail bar. So speaking of gin, tomorrow we're gonna have a super special guest. It's somebody I met, maybe 12 years ago here in France. It's Alexander Gabriel. The owner, he owns Citadel Gin, and he also owns Maison Ferrand Cognac, and he also owns Plantation Rum. And I haven't done a lot of rum drinks because rum is very popular in France. I don't usually tend to mix it in drinks. It's more tiki inspired for me, and there aren't tiki drinks in France. But he's going to make a drink with us tomorrow. So that's going to be great to have Alexander Gabriel here. So if you have any questions about cognac, if you have any questions about gin or rum, feel free to leave them in the comments when I post this on Instagram later today or whenever you're watching this, because I'll ask him. And tomorrow will be a really good chance to talk to him and ask him any questions. He's really, really interesting. We had a little talk yesterday and I was just fascinated. I was like, wait, we need to stop talking and just save this to talk to everybody when people come. So when people are listening or watching. Whoops. Can't wait to see you in New Orleans after this. Oh, was I supposed to go to New Orleans? I was hoping to. Oh, Pamela Jones. Thank you. Glad you like the martinis and my recipes. Yes, I was. Yes, Brad Parsons. Robert is the real deal. And so are you. I was lobbying to go to New Orleans. When you go on book tour, often people are like, you should come here, come here, come here. It's very hard because there's only one person, you're one person, you're trying to get around. So but I've never been to New Orleans. And the publicist for my publisher actually lives there. So I said, I think I need to go. And plus my friends have a bar there that's a French aperitif bar. So, thank you. I'm glad I'm the highlight of your day. You folks are the highlight of my day. Oh, hello in Connecticut. Hello to Tuckers, and I didn't have my glasses on, and I was reading that wrong, so I'm glad I didn't say that. Musso and Frank's in LA. It's interesting, I grew up spending a lot of time in LA because half my family lives there, and I never went there. We'd go to these classic LA places where they'd mix the salads at tableside, Caesar salad. We'd go to Scandia and Jason's and all, Spago when it was up on Sunset. But we never went to Musso and Frank's, so maybe that's next on my list. I know that Brad Parsons, who's watching and who was on last week, he featured them in his book Last Call, which is a book about last call and all these great, dive bars and fancy bars and fancy House of Prime Rib, fancy bars, upscale restaurants like Canlis in Seattle. Annie in San Francisco, I guess you're in San Francisco, the House of Prime Rib. House of Prime Rib is a great place, and all they serve is prime rib, and they wheel it around on wagons. You walk in, and there's mobs of people, and they have cream spinach and salads on cold plates. And I once met the chef, because they bring out all these whole prime ribs, and they cut slices to order. And first of all, I was like, they have a chef? The chef is great. And I was talking to him, and I said, how do you know how many prime ribs to cook? Because you can't, leftovers, there's really not a lot you can do with them, and they're very expensive. He goes, we know exactly down to the slice how many we're going to sell. I worked at a well-known restaurant, which I won't mention. I guess I could mention the name, Chez Penny's. And we used to go to the Casa Rinda in Orinda every year for our Christmas party. And they used to have like the martinis, the bartenders were these old guys, and they were probably like $2 back in those days. And they had fried chicken and fried chicken cutlets, and we used to go there. And once a famous newspaper columnist found out that we went there from the San Francisco Chronicle for our Christmas meal, and he started making fun of us for eating at a downscale place. I was like, I don't know, I think that's pretty fun. It's like, for me, all I want is fried chicken and martinis. I can't imagine a better meal. But I'm not having fried chicken tonight, unfortunately, because it's not really in the French canon. But I bought this, which is called Bear's Garlic. I bought about a lot of it. It looks like Lily of the Valley. And some people confuse it with Lily of the Valley when they're picking it wild. And Lily of the Valley is toxic. So, but they have beautiful flowers. It's called Bear's Garlic. And it has a wonderful garlicky aroma. I think it's similar to ramps in the US, but I love this. So I'm going to make pesto tonight. And there's a recipe on my blog for that too. Okay, so I will see you back tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I love reading all your comments, and I wish I could just sit here and answer comments all night and talk to you, but I've got to start dinner because it's about 6:30, and we have to get ready to clap at 8 o'clock. For all the healthcare workers here in France that are working so hard, taking care of everybody, then coming home and then waking up and doing it again every day. And it's not just in France, those people are around the world. So I actually had a nurse come over today and do a blood test, a very French healthcare system, which is great because everything, I called and I said, should I go to the lab? She goes, no, not a good thing, I'll come over. So she took a blood test and it was €8, so house call. So I said, do you want a coffee? She goes, yeah, I would. Anyway, so thanks very much for coming. It was great to see you. And tomorrow we're going to be making daiquiris with rum and with Alexander Gabriel. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I made his daiquiri the other day. We're going to use rum with pineapple, marinated with pineapple in it. So, which is one of my new favorite things after gin and martinis. So I'll see you tomorrow. All right, bye-bye.